May the force be with you is a phrase used to wish a person well to overcome a challenge. The invitation in this podcast, May the life force be with you, is to explore what it means to truly feel alive, to appreciate the physical, emotional, and spiritual connection to our energy, and finally to understand how this impacts who you are and all that you do. May this conversation inspire you to thrive. Welcome to an episode of May the Life Force be with you. And before we start our conversation today, I'd like you to just take a little moment to be really here with us right now, to be present, to be in the moment, and to give yourself permission to get lost in this conversation, as I know we are going to. So let's just take a moment to be together. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Fiona. What a lovely intention to get lost in the conversation. I'm Karila, and I am so heart open and excited. Our guest today is Shobana Kataria. She is a trained herbalist, a naturopath, an acupuncturist. She works with plant spirits, especially through flower remedies and kinesiology, to produce profound shifts in people. And I just want to begin by saying that after the first time you and me spoke, ever since, every time I hear the birds sing in the morning, I think of you.
Wow.
So I think of you and your beautiful intention. And so that's where I want to begin, because you have changed my morning bird song experience.
Wow. That is so beautiful, Karila. It just goes to show how we touch people with the simplest things we say. And just to give your listeners a bit of context, I work in my workshops with the Children's Pledge, and I invite people to pledge for the 7 generations, which is about 300 years from now. And what can we give our word to, what can we commit to, but not as a commitment is going to happen, but as a commitment to live from. And my pledge is in 300 years from now to our children, you'll hear the birds sing in the morning. Because at the moment that is in doubt, it's in question, and it really is moving me in all the actions that I take. Like the custodianship that we are holding and how that has been disjointed, distorted into ownership. And that's the context of that.
Wow. I really, gosh, that. So I'm interested when you say that, because I know that you have your background is Indian. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm Indian by birth and lived there for the first 8 years of my life.
And it reminded me when you said that, because I'm fortunate to have been to India a couple of times, and also went to a friend's wedding there. And they talked about the 7 lifetimes and the 7 cycles that they've been through together. And the groom was Indian, the bride was Australian, Dutch kind of background. But they said that they felt this was their 4th lifetime together, because there was an ease when they met. Oh gosh, I can feel this in my stomach when I'm talking to you. There was an ease when they met, and an understanding when they met of what this lifetime was together, but it wasn't the end of their journey. And that struck me as something that's deeply rooted in that Indian culture, is of an appreciation of the past and of the elders, and also a kind of protection of future generation and lifetimes learned and shared together as well. It's so beautiful.
That's so interesting, because that's such a wider perspective, isn't it? And people say, oh, I don't believe in past lives, or I do, but it's not a question of belief, because I was brought up knowing about it. Just I know that I can access past lives through meditations, and my partner and I, we know we've had at least 30 lifetimes together,
Oh, wow.
and one more than one of them has been in Egypt. And particularly important for us is the lifetime we've had with Akhenaten. And I'm not sure you're familiar with Akhenaten,
No,
but
share, please.
Akhenaten was the pharaoh who brought monotheism, like the unification, the unity consciousness, the Christ consciousness to Egypt. And at the time, he had such a lot of resistance from the priesthood that it just didn't work out. And when he realized that he couldn't do it, it just all went. But yeah, so that's very important to myself and my partner. And you know, we have the humanness of the relationships going on, but we know at a deep rooted level that we have been connected for a very long time.
And would you say that in a way, when you make a pledge to the children 300 years from now, you're also making a pledge to yourself in another incarnation?
Yeah, well, I think as you know, and we all know intuitively, time is morphable. Time is um, time is not even real in the way we think of a clock and time. It's not even real. It's a concept that was made up for the Industrial Revolution to happen, to make sure we got to work on time and we left work on time and children get to school on time. And that, my sense is a system of control. And actually takes away our life force, because there's a paradox, isn't there, with time? The more you try and manage time, the less time you have. And I've been there in business, like I've had these time management diaries, and then it just seems such a scarcity mindset. Whereas our ancestors, what was time to them? It was, you know, we worship the sun. And I don't use the word worship as in idol worship. It is, and people, this is the other thing, people mistake the word worship, like when you say you worship the sun, you worship the earth, you worship the trees. But it's more connecting to the principle of giving reverence to, building a relationship with. And this podcast is about life force. Let's think a minute about what life force we would have without the sun. Yeah. And this was Akhenaten's thing. It was the sun worship, you know, just paying reverence and building the sun. Here's a little secret. The sun is a living thing. You can build a relationship with it every day if you go out. Whether it's cloudy or not, you can still access the relationship to the sun. And there's your original life force energy.
I agree with you. I mean, the sun is the great power source. I remember Terry, he's dead now, but he was the head druid at Avebury Stone Circle, and he was being interviewed. They were interviewing him, and they were like, "Why do you do ritual at the solstice?" in a really curious way, and he was just like, "Because if the sun don't come up, we're all fucked." And I was like, "That's a really good point."
Yeah, what do we do without the sun? Honestly, and then what do we try and do? We try and block the sun. We try and protect ourselves from the sun. You know, I'm not saying it's particularly good to go out 24/7 in the sun the way some people do, but really that shows some reverence, respect, and appreciate the rays. And if you look at the symbol of Akhenaten, it's the sun with the rays and a palm. It's like the life-giving force of the sun.
And so can I ask what, in practical everyday terms for people listening, that respect for the 300 years from now that children will hear birdsong, what does that mean to you of a practice or of something that you do that makes that show up as a reality in your life, and also something that we can all take from that, because obviously we are powerful as individuals, but oh my gosh, as a collective, we can really literally move mountains and make a difference. So is there something that is important to you every day to live by that
Yeah.
guide star?
Yes. So the Children's Pledge to the 7 generations. From tomorrow, you should be able to access it from my website. I want to give it free.
Perfect, divine timing.
More people that really get this, I think, the better. So there's no agenda here from me. So what I noticed was that people were getting trapped in conversations around fear and the day-to-day. We spend a lot of time worrying about the day-to-day of things, all the emails or the texts or the work. And I asked for guidance for a workshop I was doing, actually, for businesses, like, what is the work? What is it? And what I got the pledge to the 7 generations. It came to me in all sorts of ways, because I was working with the Mother Earth delegation who work with Indigenous people around the world. And they kept talking about 7 generations. And then I noticed a pledge somewhere and I thought, let's put them together. And what it is it's not like, I promise I will deliver this. It's not that kind of vow. It's not a place to go to. It's a place to come from. Yeah. And what it does is it takes me away from the humdrum, everyday concerns of life. And I go beyond those. And I'm like, okay, yes, I've got issues. My plane isn't on time. But really, what's my commitment? What's my deeper commitment? Like, from my belly, from my womb, what do I really care about? I care about the earth. I care about the world. I care about, right relationship. The Indigenous talk about right relationship. And I'm sure you do as well, both of you, but I kind of feel the distortions in my body where we are not in right relationships. And there are times I am on the floor in tears. I'll be honest, I don't always handle it very well. So then this is what the Children's Pledge does to me. It reminds me what my commitment really is. It reminds me that in spite of all the stuff that we deal with, all the shit that goes on, this is what's important right now. Is like, we're all players, we're all playing a part in what's happening in the planet right now, and we all have a role to play in bringing what Akhenaten tried to bring all those years ago.
And what did Akhenaten try to bring?
The heart-centeredness, the wisdom of the heart, the wisdom of the knowing of community, that we're all connected, we're all one. We're all one. There is no difference, there's no distinction, there's no black, white, right, wrong, this, that, other. And there are times I forget it, I should be honest. And then it's for me to remind myself or people around me. So I have a beautiful set of sisters and brothers around me who I can go to when I'm out, and then they remind me, and then I do the same for them. And this is what community is that belonging to something and being with people who come from the same commitment, who come from that commitment.
How did you land that at the pledge about the bird song?
How did I land it in the workshops?
How did you land it? How did you know that was your pledge?
It made me cry a lot. when I wrote that. It's like I wrote it first and then saw it afterwards, and then the tears. And every time I say it, I feel a little bit tearful. So it's like, it activates me. I think the word you used was activate. It activates me into being someone, how can I say it? Like, to being somebody that is not my ordinary self of the day-to-day concerns. And it frightens me a little bit, and it gets me into action, and it gets me here in a podcast, which, like, if I relied on my head, I'd be on the beach in Ibiza here.
Where would we?
Which will be later.
So does it become a form of activism for you? You know, sometimes that can be seen as a very aggressive word, or comes with a connotation of violence or hate, or a rally against something rather than for something. But activism has its peaceful place as well, doesn't it? And that's the word I'm kind of drawn to when you speak about what you do, because it's action comes with
Exactly.
activism.
It's peaceful action, though, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
my action. I've had a very interesting journey with activism as well, because when I was a businesswoman and I ran a business, and then when all that stopped happening, there was a pause in my life, and then I sort of saw what was happening on the planet, and I got really like, I've got to do something about this. So I joined Extinction Rebellion, and I started Extinction Rebellion in my area, which was Lichfield and Tamworth, and I've done a fair bit of activism through that, and there is a place for that. I never believe what you read about Extinction Rebellion, because it is very different inside than you would think from the outside, let's just say. And I still support them. However, my form of activism is more like calling to Great Spirit and saying, okay, what do you want me to do now? How can I be of service? Where is it I'm needed? And it's taken me to all sorts of places that I never would have
Spirit
even thought.
likes to make you travel.
Yeah, that's Egypt. I remember Egypt. Like, I climbed Mount Sinai. I had not done any training. Like, why am I doing this? But I know I was grounding the intention for peace. Like,
And you
there
did it
will
just
be
before we
peace.
climbed Mount Sinai here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the energies at that time were incredible. And the sun, we got such a gift of the most glorious sunrise. And by the time we got there, because we took our time, as you know, you start in the dark and you go, and there's the most amazing sunrise, because we kind of dawdled a little bit. Everybody left by the time we got to the top. So we were there on our own. It was just the incredible confirmation that we were in the right place.
It's very moving to me that you're in Ibiza, which was a huge part of my path and my land work, and has just reared its head in my world. I'm in Egypt, and I'm in Egypt now, and
Oh, you're in Egypt? Wow.
and so like it's amazing to me that like there's this like colliding of Ibiza and Egypt on the podcast, which
Yes.
is happening in this podcast has a way of showing up in the way it's showing up in my life, and it's very moving to me that you're talking about what I would call the big picture service, the service that is the service that nothing else actually matters. It's like sometimes you can get into a project or get into a be given a mission, be given a
Just feel like that.
task, and that task when you can connect into what it's going to do for future generations, what it's going to do on that big level, it's suddenly your little life doesn't matter, not in a self-sacrificial way, but just in a like your heart has become bigger than your needs in that moment.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful to me because in the colliding of Ibiza and Egypt projects, the new task is a really, the preparation for it is like let go of everything that your personality thinks you want in order to be able to do this task. And I'm very grateful that you brought to this conversation that reminder of why you would do something like that. Because you can only do it for the birds to sing in 300 years' time, or there is no other way you can let your personality self have a dissolving journey in the name of service. And so I'm very, very grateful for the Ibiza Egyptian England magic.
Yeah, it's not so sexy and magic and Hove.
Yeah, it's humbling, and it has way more rewards than you could ever imagine when you're given that guidance. Go to Egypt. I mean, I was in Egypt on 22/2/22 at the pyramids at 2:22.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was so potent. It doesn't even have words. I don't even have words for it.
And what happened?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to talk about plant medicine?
We talk about everything.
Everything.
Nothing is left unsaid on May the Life Force be with you. Go as out there or as intimate or as dirty or as rude as you want to go.
Okay. So there was a group of us, and we took with us a Peruvian shaman, and we did ceremony, which is strictly not allowed at the pyramids. But somehow we found a guide who found us a corner. You know how the magic works. And we took Huachuma, and
oh, I don't know what that is. What is that?
it's Karila, if you know more. No, Huachuma is just, I can only describe I don't know technically what it is, but I can only describe my experience. My experience was my heart went, and I entered an altered state of awareness, and just it was just really, really beautiful. And
So is it a plant medicine,
Yes, it's
natural to Egypt, natural to that
no,
region?
it's from Peru and South America.
Right.
And it tastes disgusting, I can tell you.
Most medicines do.
But I knew, like you were saying, Karina, I knew I was meant to be there, and I knew that I trusted. That's really all it was. It was just, I was in trust that this is it, right? This is it. And I took it in trust. And I tell you, like, by the time it had infused itself through me, it was about 2:00. So then by 2 to 2:30, I just was like, I need to lie down. I need to lie down. So I lay down on the floor in the middle of the pyramids, and the whole world turned rose pink. All I saw was rose pink, coming and going, energies coming and going, rose pink, the pure space of love. And my partner John, who I mentioned, he lay down next to me, and the two of us were like, "Whoa!"
And when you felt that, did any guidance or wisdom or anything come through, or was it just an experience that changed you?
It did change something fundamentally in me. You know, when you go to the pyramids, you cannot be unchanged. And like there was the sort of click moments, like the realization. Me and John have been at the pyramids before, and click, and then I think what it did is it really confirmed to me my relationship with Egypt. Strong, because before that I've always been related to India. So India's been my homeland, and like I love and love our scriptures, particularly the scriptures before the Vedic knowledge, the tantric knowledge.
And do you think there's a connection?
I do.
Funnily enough, I think there's a connection between Ibiza, Egypt, and India.
I agree. Well, they all begin with I for a start, but yeah, there's strong connections between.
What do you think it is?
Well, it's the earth chakra energies are connected, and but there's a wisdom tradition, and I'm just making this up from my own experience. I think there are wisdom traditions that are shared, and particularly there are plant traditions that are shared. Just come across some teachings about Jesus in India, and
before he became Jesus.
yes, and there's a womb chakra opening that I'm reading about, which is from India. It's written in scrolls, palm leaf scrolls.
Really?
Womb chakra opening, and I've literally only come across that today.
Wow.
And I thought, whoa, this is like original teachings written on palm leaf, and it mentions the name Jesus as well.
Babaji talks like we think that Jesus went and learnt with Babaji because that's where he learnt to be Christ conscious. Like that's where he learnt from the masters of pranayam and the teachings of India how to, because I don't think it's about connecting to Christ consciousness in the sense of, you had that high experience in the pyramids. I've had similar experiences, but the difference between an enlightened master and us is that they have learned to sustain that level of heart connection, so it's a constant. And
it's heart and womb. Even though they're men, they have the energetics of the womb, the creating.
And it's the teachings in India and the pranayam that teaches you the sustaining of how to sustain that level of. It's funny because you bring up womb, because there's the heart and then there's the womb, and it's like if your womb is open to creation, how do you hold that? Unless you've trained your system through the discipline, how do you hold that? How do you hold that level of life force energy?
When I walked up Sinai, walked with a dear friend of mine who's Egyptian, You might have even met her, I don't know. And immediately as we started walking, once we'd set the intention to ground peace, because at the time all that stuff was happening in Israel and Gaza, and it was all kicking off. So we really, I suppose, we're not sure we were going to get there. Immediately felt it in her womb, immediately. And she made the point, like, oh, it's like we're birthing the new earth. It really felt like that. And then by the end, because I'm too unfit to climb Sinai at the moment, and I was walking and I was like, and at the end she says, "You even sounded like you were giving birth by the end of it." So, how do we maintain it? For me, it's not possible at the moment where I am to maintain it. But I know that I do what I can with what I've got, and I'm in service. And I get guided and I get sent stuff like the womb stuff that I got. And a couple of weekends ago, I was on a yoga nidra retreat with Uma Dunsmore-Tilley. I don't know if you've heard of her. She wrote the book Yoni Shakti. She wrote the book. And her thing is yoga nidra, which is a meditation technique where she talks you through the meditations, but it's using the goddess, the original Devis, the tantric goddesses, which is the Mahavidya, which is Kali and the different faces of Kali, the 10 faces of Kali, the Mahavidya. And there, the whole thing is set around rest. Right? The whole retreat is set around rest. We did about 4 yoga nidras in the day. We're just lying on the floor doing yoga nidra. And I got rest. And she pointed out the word restore has the word rest in it. So, and it's like, I thought I was rested before I got here. I thought I'm fine. And then I got rest at a different level. I rest in my bones. I got. So I think we in the working Western world have a mindset, and it's the growth mindset of business as well. Like, we need to grow, we need to get more, we need to maintain, we need to increase, we need to perform. I don't think that's the full picture, because energy doesn't work like that. I think energy sometimes is an ebb and sometimes is a flow, and it's like riding it. And when you try and get higher when your body's telling you to get lower and rest, then that's the junction point where your body starts to speak to you and starts giving you signals that, how much. I mean, I was a herbalist, a naturopath practicing for a few years, and so many people came to me with exhaustion and fatigue and so on. And then when I looked at what they did on a daily basis, I was like, no wonder you're exhausted. It's not surprising when you look at your diary. What time are you taking to acknowledge all that you've done, and then just say, okay, time for me to step back and rest. Right? And it's interesting, Uma said something really that stuck with me. It's the ultimate act of activism, decolonization, and deindustrialization to our colonized minds is to rest. How have we been hypnotized to work and be workhorses all the time?
Yeah, it's so true. And particularly with the work that I do is based in the corporate world, and it's a desire, drive I have to not let others burn out in the way that I did, by not having the ability to set personal boundaries, by not appreciating the importance of rest, by wanting to be seen and to be heard. So therefore I have to be visible at all times, which means you're working 24/7. But what I've realized is that no one's working 24/7, and it's almost a facade that we put on just to kind of look, I'm showing up, therefore I must be all of these things. And what I realized in that process was that your creativity goes, your compassion for self and others go. You start to bring in resentment. You start to bring in fear. You start to then bring in anger to all of these places that you're trying to achieve in, and it breaks. And the thing that breaks is not the system. The thing that breaks is you. The best gift I ever had in some way was my burnout, because it forced me, in the way that you said your body sends you signals, my body went enough. And my body forced me not just to rest, but to actually change my life as a result of that burnout. And I don't want other people to have to get to that point to be able to feel the changes that they can make and the benefits of just saying no, because that's where it all starts. Either in self, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to look after myself. I'm going to say no to something and allow space for something that truly feeds me. There's just so many ways that that little word can help us find the time to rest and restore.
One of the reasons we started this podcast was because how many problems are going on in the world that people are too tired to stand against, speak up against, stand for, stand by. It's tiredness that is causing us to be so egocentric. In, when you're tired, you're just automatically in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, all you can think about is surviving. And so you're not thinking about whether the birds are singing in 300 years' time.
You don't notice.
Or whether the system is killing our brothers and sisters in ways that are completely atrocious and unfair. And it's the tiredness. Like, how many revolutions do not happen because humans are too tired?
Yes, and you're right. It makes you complacent, doesn't it?
It makes you not be. It makes you only able to survive. Yeah. And when you're in survival mode is the mode of being selfish. It is the mode you're surviving. That is when you put yourself first, because you're surviving. And we have that when we do need to survive. Like, I'm going to take that last piece of fruit, but the Western relationship with rest is causing us to be in a permanent state of survival because we're lacking our life force energy. And then it's meaning that we're inherently, we're behaving in a very selfish way rather than in a service way of, because when you're in service, it's like coming back to what we were saying. It's like that when you're in service, you're in a state of overflow. Your personal needs are met because you're already in contact with God or the divine. And they don't matter because actually your heart's full of that service. And when we're tired, our heart capacity can't get there.
Yeah, I want to add as well, a lot of what we do, we don't even know that we're doing it. It's a machinery. It's a machinery that has come from generations of programming and hypnotism. I'll give you an example. When I was in Egypt last time when you were there, Carilo, it turned out that the taxi driver owed me $10. So like he said, I've got to give you your $10, and immediately my mind went to, would it be better for him to give me dollars or Egyptian? And I'm like, well, why didn't I think what was better for me? it was so automatic. I've got a little soldier on guard all the time to see what's better for the other person. It's so flipping distorted. It's the distortions that get us, that pull the rug out from under us. And this is what I've become hyper aware of, or I'm attempting to, because as soon as I uncover one, there's another and another. It's like, where have our conversations been distorted so that we don't access our core? It takes us away from our core. Always being that people pleaser mentality. And it's a cultural thing as well for me. And I was brought up as a girl in India, and our reason to live, almost our survival, is that we please the male of the family, whether that's your dad or your husband or the brother. Women want to have boys, they don't want to have girls in India, for a reason, because they're so revered. But the girls, we're here to be of service so that the man can live. So there's a huge distortion there, because I've been programmed to be of service.
And just to say that, people pleasing causes tiredness. It causes it's a misuse of your energy, and it's a survival pattern rather than, to me, the misuse of service is the biggest problem we're facing in these times. Is true service, and the misuse of service is what is costing us our energy.
I've reflected a lot on this, and asked to be shown the source of this. And so for me, my soul story is, I've had this in many past lives where I've had to be of service to a man, and my survival depended on it. Because in older, and I'm not talking a long time ago either, in older cultures, the woman, if she was not useful, was cast out and would perish and die. So it's a survival instinct, and it's a domestication. So as women, we've been domesticated. So the wildness has been taken out of us intergenerationally. And that's what we're reclaiming now, is that wild spirit. And yet the domestication is still there. We're like an animal who's been trained, and somebody's been brutal to them, but they still keep going back to the master, trying to please them.
Would you say that the misuse of service is what's coming through me in this moment? Is so our true service is the pledge. It's that what am I doing for the generations? But how can I be cause? How can I be creating more love and more beauty and more birdsong and more music and be cause?
Yeah, and whatever makes your heart sing,
How can I impact the beyond myself and beyond my current reality? And then the misuse of service is when you're using that devotional love or that pledge to try and survive, or to try and stay close to somebody, or to try and stay attached to somebody, or to try and control somebody. It's funneling all of that big soul energy, in a way, into controlling a relationship, or controlling a keeping a position. Would you say that?
Yes, I would totally agree with that. Because where we are, you have to look at the relationships you're in, the function of those. Are they codependent? Are they interdependent? And so on. And it's the codependency that creates the opportunity for abuse as well. And Fiona mentioned the tiredness. What is the tiredness? The tiredness is that mentality that you've got to keep going even though your body tells you to stop. Why is that? Because you think you need to keep being of service and keep doing more, and you're only useful when you're doing, that your needs don't really matter. So you bypass your own needs. In fact, it's so funny the way I was brought up. I didn't even know I had needs. I wasn't even aware I had needs until quite late in my life. You would ask me, what do you want to eat? And I'd say, well, what do you want to eat? I didn't have a say in so much in my life. And there is some of that still to be worked through for me. It's not all gone. And then the opposite of that is, as you said, is a selfishness that you like focus on yourself, and you spoke to that earlier. So it's like, where is the balance? Where is the right relationship with myself? And I think being alone, being on yourself, we promote that quite a lot today. But I don't think it's the full story. And there is room for that. But then I think we're meant to be with people. I think we are meant. When I went to Hawaii and spoke to the elders there, one of them said, we were meant to be witnessed by 40 people, which is the village. Our lives were meant to be witnessed by 40 people, so that we all participate with each other in each other's lives, and build we've forgotten how to be together even. We're so insulated and isolated. It's learning to be together again and to create community from that.
And the word that's really jumping out at me is be together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not being of service to the other people, but like, how often do we just be together?
Yeah. There's a great quote by Gabrielle Roth. She said, in shamanic societies, when people came and they were sick or disheartened, and the shamans would ask, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? When did you stop being comforted by the sweet territory of silence? And when we be together, what do? We sing songs, we tell stories, we dance.
It is life force. It really is. And do you know what else is life force? Is this conversation, because I feel like I have really been together with you two in this episode, to the point where I had to keep reminding myself that I'm not a listener. I'm actually part of the conversation, because I just have to tell you, I think you have the most calming, warm, generous voice and energy that's come across on this episode, that I was deeply being and lost in it. It's actually making me quite emotional. Sorry. And I can see it as a Karila as well, but thank you genuinely, from my heart for that, because it felt really beautiful. And we always say at the beginning, we never know where this conversation is going to take us, but it just led me to be in the last 50 minutes. And you're in such a vibrant place in Ibiza, and thank you to the dogs that showed up in this episode. Thank you to everybody around you that showed up in this episode. And just a very heartfelt thank you for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for being those people whose heart is open to receive in the way that you have. It's very beautiful what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for both of you for this conversation. It has made me well up many times. And it's deeply, deeply, I don't often say this actually live. I often say it before, but I feel like each of the episodes is an activation. And I feel like what just got activated was a wisdom around how important being is in our service. And this wisdom started for me in a pyramid called Saqqara Pyramid, which is another pyramid in Egypt, where I was asking about how to be of service to a very, very big picture and not be in martyrdom, not be in Messiah, not be in these concepts. And the pyramid said to me, it's because when we're truly in love, when we're truly being the love that we are, we stop being because, we stop being story, and we be cause. Our love causes. I just feel like the same wisdom, the same frequency, the same energy has just come as that message has just come through this conversation as a code, as an activation, and it feels very sacred and very important, because I think a lot of us get lost in what service means. But what I'm taking from this conversation is it means to be cause. And so I'm very grateful to both of you. And Shobana, you're just an amazing beer of love and light. And so thank you for coming on to May the Life Force be with you. And I'd like to ask, who do you think we should speak to next?
So many people I know, but you know what? Uma Danswatuli would be amazing here. Her knowledge of the Mahavidya, the Shakti, Kali, all those themes that we've touched on.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I hope we see or speak to you again soon, because I feel the connection today. So thank you so much again.
Thank you. We're going to meet at the Elements retreat. So.
Yes. And we'd love to have you in the Life Force Cafe, but I will email you about that, because I can tell that time has already been stretched.
Yeah. We're doing something amazing at Elements, by the way, but we haven't had time to mention it. Let's do it. Thank you. Thank you, both of you. You're so lovely.
I think that's probably the most emotional episode that we've had. Shobana was so calm and wise and thoughtful with every single word that she said. I feel like I've slowed down my my way of talking just as a result of that. But what really came through for me, and actually we just had a quick conversation with her after we stopped recording, was permission for time and space. And when she talked about that time, what is time, and it's made me think about how to find more being time.
I'm so moved.
You are.
I'm so moved by our service being our beingness, and our beingness being how the birds will sing in 300 years, and being an act of revolution, rest being an act of activism and revolution, and a place to come from. This was a very, very beautiful personal activation for me as well, which I'm very grateful for.
Well, that is what we're here to be and to do. And as we always say, every episode is a different voice. There's a different resonance. There's something that will really hit people square between the eyes, sometimes in the heart, sometimes in the gut, but it's about being moved by something for me into some form of action, and that action can also be just to rest, to close your eyes, to just take, whatever comes up for you. And it doesn't always have to be about writing a to-do list of everything that I must be more like this. Actually, no, just kind of that taking that rest and restore time is equally as important. And I feel like that's what this episode has given permission to do. It's just to be. And so massive thank you for introducing us to Shobana and for her beautiful words. And I'm excited to meet in person at Elements and see what other magic we can co-create. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Maybe we've put everybody to sleep, which, subconsciously you'll still be getting the message, so that's all good.
May the rest be with you all. We hope this conversation has topped up your life force energy. If it has, then please help us spread the life force. Like, share, subscribe, all of that. And may the life force be with all of us.